What if I told you the most dangerous man in the room isn't the smartest, not the strongest, not even the most experienced, but the one who believes, without a single flicker of doubt, that he's already won even when he's clearly losing? That's not confidence. That's delusion. And in the brutal arena of power, delusion isn't a weakness. It's a divine force. The kind that builds empires from ashes. The kind that breaks every rule, spits on logic, and rewrites fate itself. It doesn't wait for reality. It bends it. Machiavelli never called it delusion. He called it necessary. Because when the world screams that you're done, when logic stacks its odds against you, only delusion dares to whisper, "This is just the beginning." This world never belonged to the reasonable. It never will. It crowns the irrational, the obsessed, the ones who believe in their own legend long before there's any reason to, the madmen, the outcasts, the fools, until they win. And then, suddenly, they're visionaries. Machiavelli understood this savage truth more deeply than most. In The Prince, he didn't glorify moderation or reason. He glorified results. And more often than not, results are born not from logic, but from delusion. Think about it. What really separates a lunatic from a legend? One word: success. History forgets the cautious realists who waited for the right moment, who played it safe, who stayed humble and reasonable. But it immortalizes the deranged conquerors who walked into the storm with no armor except raw belief. Alexander the Great wasn't satisfied with being king. He believed, truly believed, he was the son of Zeus. Not metaphorically, literally. And because he believed it, so did his soldiers. So did his enemies. His armies fought like they were led by a god. His enemies trembled like they were facing one. When your blood feels sacred, retreat becomes sacrilege. You don't lose when you're wrong. You lose when you hesitate. You lose when your identity allows the possibility of defeat. Napoleon didn't wait for the church to crown him. He crowned himself, not in the name of France, not under God, with his own hands. That wasn't arrogance. That was psychological warfare, a declaration. I don't need divine right. I am the right. Muhammad stood alone in Mecca with a message that should have gotten him executed. But he spoke with certainty, not with military might, but with unshakable belief. And belief became empire. These men didn't win because they had better weapons. They won because their belief outscreamed the world's doubt, because they refused to view reality like everyone else. Machiavelli hinted at this, but never shouted it. In the game of power, the man driven by delusion often beats the man driven by reason. Because people don't follow logic. They don't even follow evidence. They follow certainty. Certainty is magnetic. Certainty overrides the senses. When someone speaks with unwavering conviction, even if they're wrong, the crowd follows. Not because the deluded man is right, but because no one else is bold enough to challenge a fire that burns that bright. Look around. You'll see it everywhere. The most powerful entrepreneurs didn't wait for perfection. The most charismatic leaders didn't ask for acceptance. The most feared competitors didn't care about odds. They moved with the energy of someone who had already won. That's the secret. Delusional belief creates momentum. It silences critics. It makes people stop questioning and start adjusting. It bends the room to your will because you act like it already belongs to you. Most people think they need proof before they believe. The delusional man doesn't wait. He declares belief. He becomes power. And here's the twist. The moment he believes it, others do too. Machiavelli would have called it dangerous but essential. A prince must manufacture appearances, shape perception, walk the line between illusion and domination. And the greatest illusion of all? The one you cast over yourself. You can lie to others. That's strategy. But when you believe your own myth, when your soul burns with a purpose no one else can see, that's when you become unstoppable. Failure no longer exists because you've already decided it doesn't. You become dangerous because nothing shakes the world like a man who cannot be shaken. You become inevitable because you walk like fate is dragging you forward. So laugh at the madman, mock the one who walks like he's already king. But when the cautious fall, when the logical hesitate, he's still standing. Because he didn't wait for proof. He became the proof. And in a world that rewards courage wrapped in delusion, that's the man who wins. Your enemy expects hesitation. He expects fear in your eyes, uncertainty in your voice, doubt in your movements. That's how most people live. Cautiously, quietly, begging for permission to act like they matter. But then you enter the room, eyes locked, spine straight, words spoken like prophecy. And suddenly everything changes. Because you're not carrying a sword, you're carrying delusion. And in the hands of someone who knows how to use it, delusion becomes a weapon of war. Machiavelli didn't use the word delusion, but he knew its power. He spoke of optics, of controlling perception, of fabricating greatness even when it didn't exist. Why? Because people don't react to the truth. They react to the presentation of truth. When you walk with delusional belief, you don't just change how they see you. You change how they see themselves in your presence. They feel smaller, weaker, less certain. They question their reality while you rewrite yours. This isn't confidence. Confidence seeks validation. Delusional belief doesn't need applause. It doesn't wait for permission. It fuels itself. And because of that, you commit to actions others wouldn't dare dream of. That's why it's a weapon. It expands your courage, your influence, your willingness to break through boundaries. Your opponent calculates rational limits. But you're no longer rational. You're possessed. And that makes you terrifying. Here's the Machiavellian truth. Power is never about being right. It's about being sure. Certainty terrifies. Certainty commands, even when it's wrong. Because in a gray world, people hunger for black and white. They crave someone who knows. So when you speak, don't suggest, declare. Don't say, I think I can win. Say, it's already mine. Don't say, maybe I'm good enough. Say, I was born for this. The goal isn't to win debates, it's to dominate belief. And the wildest part? That certainty spreads. Delusional belief is contagious. People adopt your narrative because you're so certain of it. Your story becomes their worldview. That's why kings don't beg. That's why leaders don't ask. That's why Machiavelli said, a prince must appear resolute, even when he isn't. Because when you act like a lion, the sheep don't stop to ask if you're pretending. They just move out of your way. Where most people fail is thinking delusion is pretend. No, delusion only works when you live it. When your every move aligns with the identity you've created. The delusional man doesn't just talk, he builds. He trains like war is inevitable. He walks into rooms like he owns them. He signs his name like it belongs in history books. And slowly, people start to believe it too. Not because it's true, but because they'd rather be wrong with you than alone against you. That's how delusion wins wars. Not by proving itself, but by projecting so intensely that resistance collapses before the first blow. And here's the final twist. Delusional belief isn't lightning. It's a construction project, built brick by brick, in silence, in defiance, in fire. It's not a gift. It's a weapon forged by hands that refused to stay idle. And if you're weak right now, if you feel small, if you feel invisible, good. That's the perfect place for delusion to be born. Not from privilege, not from praise, from nothing. That's what makes it so terrifying. Not that it's loud, but that it shouldn't even exist. And yet it does. So how do you build it? Step 1. Kill permission. Most people never rise because they're still waiting to be validated, waiting for a nod. Delusion starts when you kill that instinct. You don't need permission. You never did. Machiavelli's prince doesn't ask for the crown. He takes it. He manufactures his right to rule. So must you. Step 2. Speak like a tyrant. Your words are bricks in your palace. Speak weakness, and you're building your own prison. The delusional man doesn't say, "I hope." He says, "I will." He doesn't wonder. He declares. People are trained to detect uncertainty, but they're also trained to obey conviction. Speak like success is already decided, and the world will start to conform. Step 3. Move like you're untouchable. The body never lies. Your posture either betrays fear or reinforces your legend. Delusion must become physical. Stand like a general. Make eye contact like a king receiving tribute. Walk like you were born for this. This isn't acting. It's reprogramming your nervous system until power feels like home. Step 4. Burn the evidence. The world will throw statistics at you. Logic. Proof that you'll fail. Burn it. Delusion is rebellion. It sees the evidence and says, irrelevant. Your failures, your scars, your shortcomings, they're background noise. Because your mind is already 5 years ahead, hearing the applause, seeing the crown, smelling the victory. And step 5, protect the myth. Once you've built your delusion, guard it like a fortress. Doubt will knock. People will try to humble you. Silence them, not out of arrogance, but because your myth is sacred. If you let cracks show, the whole illusion unravels. You're no longer just trying to win, you're trying to become untouchable. The game you're playing now is no longer about battles. It's about legend. Every breath, every silence, every gesture is theater for the myth you are becoming. And once the myth is real enough in your own mind, others begin to adopt it. That's when the real transformation happens. Step 6. Let others carry the story. You know you've won when your name is whispered in rooms you've never entered, when rivals shift their strategies not based on what you've done, but on what you might do. When admirers mimic your stillness, your tone, your posture, not because they understand it, but because they feel its weight. That's when your delusion stops being internal and becomes law. At that point, you no longer have to declare your power. Your existence does it for you. Your silence becomes a statement. Your presence becomes a prediction. You've moved beyond being human. You've become the myth. You've become the story that people fear, admire, and cannot ignore. The man and the myth have merged, and no one can remember which came first. Machiavelli would have smiled at the madness, applauded the audacity. Whispered the truth only the cowards deny. He who controls the illusion controls the world. Delusional belief is not about self-help. It's not a mantra. It's not morning motivation. It's self-crowning. It's the act of declaring, I am not waiting for history to define me. I will write it myself. And if you write it long enough, bleed for it, burn for it, build for it, then even the world eventually must kneel. Because the world can mock a man. It can delay a king. It can crucify a prophet. But it cannot kill a myth. Let's trace the forbidden path. The one walked only by those bold enough to believe in themselves so violently that reality has no choice but to surrender. This isn't about affirmations. It isn't about hoping things get better. It's about lighting such a fire inside yourself that the world scorches before it dares question your right to exist on your terms. The world doesn't remember the polite. It remembers the madman who shouted victory before the battle even began, the one who believed he was chosen long before anyone agreed. They laughed. They called him arrogant. But while they hesitated, he conquered. Delusional belief isn't just madness, it's a weapon. When you speak with conviction, you silence reason. When you move with certainty, people forget your flaws. When you project your vision, they confuse it with prophecy. That's the trick. You don't bend reality by proving yourself. You bend it by never flinching, by applying so much pressure with your presence that people mistake it for fate. But make no mistake, belief must be built. It starts small, in the shadows, when you kill your need for permission, when you talk like your words shape events, when you walk like the crown is already on your head, when you stare down the evidence and say, "I've already won." You will be tested. The world will push back. It will laugh. It will resist. It will tell you to be realistic. And maybe they're right. Maybe you will fall. Maybe you will lose everything. But here's the truth they never say out loud. The real danger isn't delusion. It's mediocrity. It's playing it safe. It's dying with your potential untested. Because no one fears a man who doubts himself. No one follows a man who waits for proof. But they will follow a myth. That's the final evolution of belief. When it stops being internal and becomes external law, you don't just believe anymore. You are the belief. You are the prophecy. Your name enters the room before you do. People speak about you in hushed tones. They don't know why, but something about your existence feels inevitable. Your every word, every action carries weight, not because you proved it, but because your presence refuses to be questioned. You've crossed a line. No longer man. Now, legend. And once your delusion survives long enough, it's no longer delusion. It's destiny. So if you're done playing small, if you're done waiting, if you're done pretending you're something less than mythic, then step forward. Not as who you are, but as who you decide to become. Step forward like the pages of history are already written, and you just need to catch up. Step forward like doubt is beneath you, like logic is your servant, like fear has no jurisdiction here. Because that's how kings move, that's how tyrants rise, that's how myths are born. Burn the script the world gave you. Write your own. Don't seek motivation. Become it. Don't chase greatness. Be the gravity that pulls it toward you. And remember what Machiavelli understood before all of us. The world does not reward virtue on its own. It rewards the man who forces it to. The man who doesn't flinch when mocked. The man who builds his monument while they throw stones. Because he knows something they never will. That belief bends reality, but only after you make it bleed. Delusional self-belief may destroy you. It may leave you broke, exiled, ridiculed. You'll be called mad, arrogant, out of touch. And maybe you are. But if you wield it right, cold, calculated, persistent, it becomes more dangerous to your enemies than to you. That's the Machiavellian method. Use the madness, but never let it use you. Stay sharp, stay adaptive, but never surrender your belief. Because yes, sometimes the delusional man fails. But when he wins, when he truly wins, he wins so violently, so outrageously, so undeniably that it rewrites the rules for everyone else. And the same people who laughed at him in the beginning? They kneel in the end, not because he was lucky, but because he was relentless, because his belief didn't bend under pressure. It crushed it. Machiavelli never feared failure. He feared obscurity. He feared a world where smaller men ruled simply because they believed in themselves louder than the giant who stayed silent. So here is the final calculation. Yes, delusion can destroy you, but it can also deify you. And if you're willing to walk that razor's edge, if you're willing to risk everything, then what begins as madness becomes a myth. What begins as delusion becomes destiny. Because delusion is not the end game. It's the spark, the ignition, the fire that rages before the world dares to take you seriously. It's what gives you the eyes of a prophet, the will of a conqueror, the silence of a storm before it hits. But once it's built, once it's forged in the rejection, the failure, the doubt, then you have one final task. You must turn your belief into a legacy, into a name that lingers, into a presence that shakes rooms without speaking. And once you've done that, the world may resist, delay, and try to deny you. But in the end, it will surrender, because you didn't wait for permission. You made them remember. And that is the power of weaponized delusion. And in the end, that's all power really is. Not titles, not approval, not inherited privilege. Power is attention. Power is belief, multiplied. Power is the ability to impose your vision so completely on the world that even your enemies have to operate inside your frame. And the only way you get there is to burn every bridge to your former self, to kill the version of you that waited, the one that asked for permission, the one that made excuses. You bury him, publicly, privately, permanently. And from the ashes, you rise, not as a better version of who you were, but as someone entirely new, unapologetic, unshakable, unreal, until you're undeniable. Let the doubters preach patience. Let the humble wait in line. Let the realists aim for good enough. That's not your path. Your path is fire. Your path is thunder. Your path is to walk like your presence rewrites the rules. And when they look at you and say, "Who does he think he is?" you smile. Because that's the wrong question. The real question is, who told them they could doubt you in the first place? The truth is simple. No one follows a man who plays it safe. No one fears a man who whispers his dreams. No one remembers the man who waited until he was ready. They remember the one who declared he was chosen before anyone else believed. They remember the one who moved like prophecy, who spoke like history was already written. That's the one who bends the future. That's the one who makes empires shiver. That's the one who lives forever. So here it is, your line in the sand, your declaration to the world, and more importantly, to yourself. You are done asking, done hesitating, done negotiating with a world that never gave you anything you didn't fight for. From this moment forward, you are no longer operating on their terms. You're moving like destiny walks beside you, like every failure was scripted to forge you, like every doubt aimed at you is just one more brick in your fortress. And when the dust settles, when the cautious are forgotten, when the logical are replaced, when the patient are stepped over, you will still be there. Not because you were lucky, not because you were perfect, but because you were relentless, because you had the audacity to believe when no one else did, because you didn't need the world to validate you. You forced it to recognize you. That's not arrogance, that's sovereignty. That's not madness. That's mastery. That's not delusion anymore. That's a throne. So don't just believe, become, and make the world adjust.